After leaving office 21 months ago, our next speaker has continued inspiring audiences, both Jewish and non-Jewish, around the globe. Chief Rabbi Emeritus Lord Sachs has never claimed to be the UK's rabbi, America's rabbi. For many, he is one of the most prominent rabbis in the world. He has appeared recently on Andrew Marr and Christian Amanpour, and so there was only one real way he could increase his trajectory in his career, and that was to appear here at the Jewish News UK Israel Strategic Challenges Conference. He is the author of 24 hugely successful books. His latest offering, Not in God's Name, has featured in the UK's bestseller list for non-fiction. It has also been as high as number 11 in the list on Amazon.com. Lord Sachs was the last keynote speaker to be introduced to our schedule last week, and it's a huge honour to welcome him to the stage.
Justin, ladies and gentlemen, Vodosh Ambassador Daniel Tove, and may I thank and salute you for your extraordinary work here over these past 5 years. You've been an outstanding figure for this area. Leader of the opposition, Budi Herzog, may I thank and congratulate you for all you do. May I just tell you a little secret about how Her Majesty the Queen loved your late father's Irish accent, which definitely was something she cherished. Just a reminder, it's on this day when the Queen is visiting Germany, that we have in the BBC archives the recording made at the liberation of Bergen-Belsen on the 21st of April 1945. The survivors of Bergen-Belsen for the BBC sang a song. The song they sang was Hatikva, and that dream has come true in our lifetime. Is the greatest hope for the Jewish people, and we hope it's also a blessing to the world. Friends, I was with the great scholar of Islam, Professor Bernard Lewis, in 2003, when somebody asked him to predict what would happen in Iraq. His reply was memorable. He said, "I am a historian, and therefore I only make predictions about the past. What is more, I am a retired historian, so even my past is passé. So with that in mind, I make only the simplest possible prediction, that the battle against Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram, ISIS, and their myriad mutations will be the defining conflict of the next generation. For obvious reasons. First, as Brafman and Beckstrom argue in their book, there is a difference between a starfish and a spider. A decapitated spider dies, but a starfish can regenerate itself from a single amputated leg. Radical political Islam is a starfish, not a spider. And though Al-Qaeda and ISIS may be defeated, they will come back in other guises, under other names. Second, despite the best endeavors of the West over the past 14 years, radical political Islam is stronger today than it was then. As Moses Naim writes in The End of Power, asymmetric warfare has increasingly delivered victory to the militarily weaker side. The terms of conflict are changing, and we have not yet found an answer to this form of disruptive innovation. Third, we are facing a phenomenon that the West has not known since the wars of religion in the 16th and 17th centuries. When they ended in one place, they began in another, and they lasted for more than a century. The same factors present then are present now. One, discontent with an existing power, widely conceived to have been corrupt. Then the Catholic Church, today secular nationalist regimes. Two, protest takes a religious form, an attempt to get back to the pristine purity of the faith as it was in the beginning. And three, a revolution in information technology, which allowed what otherwise would have been marginal, disaffected groups to outflank all existing structures of power. Then the revolution was printing, today YouTube, Facebook, and the other social media, whose most accomplished users are ISIS. If this prediction has even the remotest chance of coming true, then I would make three simple points. First, it is not clear that we have yet obeyed Robert McNamara's fundamental rule. Understand your enemy's psychology. As Graham Wood makes clear in his article in The Atlantic in March earlier this year, ISIS is a religious phenomenon through and through, as are all movements of radical political Islam. We are not very good in the West at understanding theology, but without it, we will not understand our opponents. Second, wars are won by weapons, but peace is won by ideas. That's what happened in the 17th century, when thinkers like John Milton, Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Benedict Spinoza sat and studied the Bible and came up with the 5 ideas that shaped the modern world: social contract, the moral limits of power, liberty of conscience, the doctrine of toleration, and most importantly of all, human rights. These began life as religious ideas. As John F. Kennedy said in his inaugural, the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe. The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. The Cold War was conceived by the West as, among other things, a battle of ideas. And great thinkers like Isaiah Berlin, Karl Popper, and Friedrich Hayek developed new and inspiring defenses of freedom. Thus far, the 20th century has produced few, if any, new ideas. And since we're dealing with a religious conflict, there must be religious ideas, just as they were in the 17th century. It was for this reason that I wrote my new book, Not in God's Name, to at least begin a conversation of ideas. Lastly, if religion is part of the problem, then religion must be part of the solution. And we begin with one major advantage. Most of the world's great faiths are on the same side today. Jews are threatened by anti-Semitism. Christians are being massacred or exiled or living in fear throughout most of the Middle East. Moderate Muslims are being slaughtered by the radicals. Hindus and Sikhs feel equally threatened, not just in India, but also in Europe. The Baha'i are being persecuted in Iran, the Yazidis in Iraq, and the Druze in Syria. If we stand together, we win. Religious leaders must be recruited and brought together as a recognized element of the global response to tyranny and terror, preferably under the aegis of the United Nations. Whether this is done in the form of track-to diplomacy in specific conflict zones, or under the rubric of Article 18 in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or simply as a body dedicated to establishing the parameters of religious education so that we can teach the world's children not to hate those with whom they must one day learn to live. This is a battle we can and must win for every kind of reason: political, moral, religious, and humanitarian. We live today in a world in which people are killing in the name of the God of life, waging war in the name of the God of peace, and practicing cruelty in the name of the God of compassion. There comes a time when we, whatever our faith, have to stand together and say, not in God's name, and the sooner we do so, the better. Thank you.